Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. It's an engaging and enlightening talk show on life, relationships, and the business of life. Grab a cup of juice and just
It's time
chill.
to bring you yet
Life
another
Well
amazing
Lived
episode.
by Omobola
And now,
Stephen. Live
welcome
life.
your host.
Live fully.
Good to have you on Live Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. This is your host, Omobola Stephen. On Live Well Lived, we focus on personal development and self-improvement topics, occasioning professionals who are adept in these topics. Now, we emphasize the need for us to intentionally focus on improving on ourselves. Now, all of the innate potential, possibilities, and endless bounties that life has in store for us, we can only harness, maximize them to the fullest when we begin to look inwards, ask the right questions, and also begin to improve on what we find out. Now, when we improve on what we find out, we realize that there's so much that lies within us waiting to be explored and also blessing humanity in return. The focus of the show, Live Early by Omobola Stephen, is for us to pivot transformative, disruptive, yet constructive mindful conversations that is going to move you from where you are to where you need to be. Thank you, Brandon Day, for joining me on the show today. Good to have you, Brandon Day. Now, Brandon is a high performance coach and the founder of NeuroFlow Method, a unique system that combines applied neuroscience and flow state coaching to help elite performance. Good to have you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Great to have you. I'm looking forward to a great time on the show. We'll be talking about the future of performance coaching, integrating neuroscience and athletic training. So, what drives human performance?
Wow, that's a great question. Um, Many things, but if I had to boil it down to one thing, it's your brain. Your brain is the control hub. It's the thing that allows you to reach your level of high performance, your peak performance state, whatever that is for you right now, or it holds you back from reaching that state. It is the governor. We call the nervous system the governing system of all the systems. So when you can understand that, and when you can then use the tools at our disposal to influence the nervous system in the brain, then you can really tap into what your highest level of performance is in this moment. So it all comes down to, we have a brain, but we don't have an owner's manual. So we have a brain, but we should all know how to use it. So that's why I focus so much on applied neuroscience and the flow state coaching, because of that sentence right there. It's like, we got this little 3-pound piece of meat in our head, but nobody tells us how to use it properly. And it is the one thing holding us back, and it is the one thing that can really help us reach our full potential.
All right, now you talked about the brain. So let's look at applied neurology. How does the brain and nervous system, how does it influence pain and performance? Do you have an expertise in this area you can share?
Yeah. So very profoundly is the short answer. But let's talk about pain for a second, because pain for high performers, at least a lot of the ones that I work with, which tend to be athletes. Some of them are still athletes at the highest levels of their game, but many of them are former competitive athletes that now use that athletic mindset and that drive and all that discipline that they learn in their new professions, which is entrepreneurship or executive or management or sales or whatever it may be. High performers, like the ones that I work with, tend to think or have this mindset that pain is just a part of the job, that pain is just a part of life, and it's something that is in some cases meant to be ignored and pushed through, but in healthier cases, it is something that needs to be dealt with, but is just along for the ride when you're reaching higher levels of performance. I am here to dispel that myth. That is just not true. Pain is nothing more than a signal from our brain that something needs to change. That's really all it is. It's just a little like flashing yellow light or a check engine light in your car that's just trying to get your attention. That's really all it is. And it's very good at getting your attention. Um, but the problem that most high achievers run into is that they ignore that signal for long enough, and then it blows up into something bigger than it should have been. When you understand that 100% of the time pain is an output from your brain, then it should be very empowering, because then we know that we can go right to the root cause. We can work with the brain and the nervous system intentionally with the applied neurology tools that we have. And we can, quote unquote, beat pain at its source. So that should feel very empowering, very liberating. So when people come to me in pain, we first have to understand how that brain works and why it gives you pain in the first place. When we know that, then we can affect it with any input that makes the brain feel more safe in its environment. So here's an example. A client recently came to me, very athletic man in his youth, and now he coaches all his kids' baseball teams, and he's a big-time sales guy and does very well, but it's a very high-stress job, and he has that athlete mindset, very high performer. He has back pain that is almost debilitating, no injury to speak of, but like 8 out of 10 on the pain scale. He can sometimes hardly get out of bed. He's got to miss lots of events because he doesn't know if his back will act up. Really in a tough spot. With him, when we started to dig into his history and look at what was going on before, during, after the pain started, it turns out that he had had a minor head injury, and it kind of jostled around his brain and his inner ear, which is your vestibular system. They're like these little gyroscopes that live in there that tell you where you are relative to gravity and which way you're going. When those things are off, then he was walking around the world and his brain was thinking, well, we're falling to the side all the time because we got jostled here and these are a little bit off. So what I'm going to do is this is his brain talking, I am just going to lock down your lower back. I'm going to make it so you cannot move that thing at all. So now he has to walk with a little wider stance, kind of like an old man would walk. And this stiffness and tightness in his back, every time he would try to get up and move, it would just send him through the roof, and this pain would just be almost unbearable. For him, when we dug into it, when we understand how this pain process works in your brain, then all we had to do was go in there and give a little activation to the one side of his vestibular system that was a little bit off, to help his brain feel more balanced as it walks around the world. And then his brain says, oh, okay, thank you. Now I feel more predictable in this environment. I feel more safe as I walk around. I don't think I'm going to fall over all the time. And so I'm going to let go. I'm going to get rid of this pain, and I'm going to let go of all this tension you're holding in your back. So, because I don't feel like you're going to fall anymore. So go ahead, walk around the world, do great. Go throw baseballs with your kid. Have a great time. For him, that's all it took. It was just a little bit of input to his inner ear in order for the brain to feel safe enough to let go of the tension and the pain. So, if we can understand that pain from a neurological level is always an output from your brain to get your attention, then we can do anything to make the brain feel safe in its environment and then affect that pain. We don't even have to work on the spot. We don't even have to get close to it. We can work with pain from any point, which is really nice. You get a lot more options that way. In the same breath, those type of drills, we call neuro drills, are the same ways that we can unlock new levels of performance, both physical and cognitive. Just like pain is an output from the brain, so are things like brain fog, hazy thinking, ADHD symptoms, OCD, even depression, anxiety. These also are outputs from the brain that are meant to protect us in some way. So when we can get the nervous system in the brain on a little bit more even keel with better inputs and remove those threats that the brain is perceiving in the environment, then not only can we get rid of pain and have smoother range of motion and things like that, we also get clearer thinking. We also get better decision making. We also get faster reactions and less emotional reactivity. So that's where we really start to increase the performance and reach for flow states, which is our ultimate state of peak performance.
Right. Excuse me. So really, do you think it's possible for athletes to be in control of their pain experience?
Yes, yes, I do. I think the understanding of the brain and the nervous system and how they create pain in order for us to pay more attention, that understanding itself is very key for taking over a lot more control over your own pain experience. Beyond that, then it's just a matter of assessing and finding the right tools or inputs in order to affect that pain. And in my work, we see amazing results following this simple process of just understanding the neurology and working with the neurology specifically, because pain is a neurological experience. It feels like it's physical, but that's only because the brain is telling you it's physical, right? It's everything is a neurological experience, really. It's all nerve impulses that send signals to the brain and then send feelings back. So the experience, any athlete, anyone really, for that matter, can really take control and feel like a real sense of empowerment when you understand how applied neurology or neurotraining works.
To the athletes now, despite dedication to training and recoveries, some of them they still realize that their injuries are lingered, which affects performance and the overall well-being. So, in your online field of expertise, which method do you think is effective? Do you like to share your personal experience?
Yeah, we can share some of the methods through my personal experience if that's helpful. Um, I played American football all throughout my youth and throughout university or college. And I was lucky enough to play on some very good teams, and I was a pretty good football player myself. But I played a position called linebacker, which is on the defense, which is a very, very physical position. I was hitting, I was going up and crashing into human beings that were much, much bigger than me, and they hit very hard. And so I had a lot of pain when I got done with my athletic career. And a lot of it was physical pain. I had some neck injuries from hitting my head, and I had some bulging discs in the neck and my lower back. And I experienced a pretty good amount of pain in those two areas. I had torn all sorts of connective tissue, meniscus, and ligaments in my knees. My ankles had been sprained like a dozen times on each side. I had a lot of injuries. But the crazy thing about pain is that pain does not equal injury, and just because you have an injury, that doesn't mean you have to have pain. An example of this is, well, at least let's use a hypothetical. You are in the woods and you are hiking around with your family, and you're having a wonderful time, and then all of a sudden you hear a big growl behind you. That's probably not good, right? So you and your family, you start running for your car. And your family, they're very fast and they get away and they are safe. Amazing. But you fall because you twist your ankle and you hear a snap. Your ankle breaks. That is not a good situation. Now you're in excruciating pain, and there is a large animal that is growling and sounds hungry coming after you. Is it a good idea for your brain to give you excruciating pain in that ankle in that moment? Probably not. That is not a great survival strategy, right? Because the brain really, at its most fundamental level, its function is survival. That's really all that it cares about. At a very basic level, its only job is to keep you alive. Then its next job is to help you move. And then maybe after those things, we can think about, reproducing and keeping this human race going, right? So very basically, it's got to keep you alive. So in that situation, pain is not a survival strategy. So what does your brain do? It inhibits that pain. It says, I can't deal with that right now. We're going to say no pain. I'm going to allow you to run on a broken ankle because you have to get away from this large, hungry animal. And it will do that. You will run pain-free, adrenaline pumping and everything else. And you will get back to that car. You will be safe and sound. And then a couple hours later, when all those stress chemicals wear off, you will be in much more excruciating pain than you may have been in the beginning. Because now you've probably torn up all sorts of stuff in that ankle because that pain was not there to protect you. So pain is totally a neurological experience that can be turned up or down, on or off. If we can open up a dialogue and really work with our nervous system and our brain. So in my experience, I had a lot of pain after college, and most of my injuries, quote unquote, had healed. My body had healed itself to that point. So there was no reason for me to continue having chronic pain. I went through many different modalities and methods, all the traditional routes like physical therapy, chiropractic, massage and body work, acupuncture. Man, I tried, the list goes on and on and on. And I would get some relief, just like a lot of my clients would get a little bit relief, but then the pain would always come back. And it was very frustrating until I discovered and was introduced to my mentors in applied neurology. And when I started learning and applying neurotraining tools and techniques, my pain was gone within a couple months. And this is 15 years plus of chronic pain gone very quickly, which was fascinating. And it's why I'm so passionate about what I do. But the key tools for me were that vestibular system, the inner ear, the visual system, my eyes, and the integration of those two, which helps create stability for balance, which helps your posture, which helps autonomic functions from your brainstem to regulate those, like blood pressure, heart rate, respiration rate. So those higher order systems were causing a lot of threat that my brain was trying to deal with, and so it was giving me pain to try to get me to change and do something different. A couple really simple tools for those two systems to get them more balanced and functioning a little bit better, along with one breathing drill and one movement drill. We call them joint mapping drills, which is all about moving your joints in all the ways that they can move in order to fill in the maps that live in your brain. And when you do that, and when you have nice clear maps and your joints are moving in all the ways they should, then we have less threat, therefore less pain. So for me, those were the tools that were incredibly helpful that no one had ever taught me before. No one's really working above the neck, as we like to say. Eyes, inner ear. You don't see a lot of training out there for pain relief or performance enhancement around those two things. It's mostly in the clinics with white coats where they are imploring some of these assessments and tools. We're just taking all that stuff that they're doing in the ivory towers with in the clinics, and we're using it with regular people.
Thank you so much, Brandon, for that insight.
Yeah.
Between performance coaching and mental coaching, I'd like you to just suppose between the two. And how do you think they are beneficial, not just to the athletes, but to a person?
Question, because I think performance coaching specifically is it seems like it's like a catch-all term for any kind of modality or useful tool that's kind of moving, pushing, trying to create and improve, give somebody an edge, right? We're working at the top levels of performance and we're trying to just get a little bit more. I think it's like, it seems to me that there are a lot of different ways of doing that, a lot of different styles of coaching that they put under the performance coaching banner. And that's fine, that's great. I think there is a place for mindset or mental coaching in the performance coaching realm. I think it's a type of performance coaching, I guess would be my answer. So, it's incredibly important, not just for athletes, for everyone. Like mindset is so, so key. And in my work, I do separate out like pure mindset coaching from physical or neuro training, or like physical performance coaching. But it's tricky because, the mind and body are one. There's really no separation and they affect each other so much. And what I mean by that is like your mindset, the mental coaching part of it, in my view, cannot be separated from the neuro training or the physical part of it. And what I mean is that because the brain is always looking out for your survival, it's doing that by taking in the inputs from your internal and external environment, and that it interprets those inputs and then gives you an output. If we want performance outputs, better performance, more strength, more speed, clearer thinking, better decision making, all that, we need better inputs or better interpretations. Thoughts are also inputs, just like your environmental inputs, just like all of your sensory, all of your special senses, your vision, your hearing, your touch and tactile sense, taste, all of it. Thoughts are inputs just like that, and they can affect your brain's perception of threat. And then you can get protective or performance outputs, just like if you get stung by a bee, right? So when we know that, then we know that sometimes in order to really affect your mental capacity, your mental state, your mindset, we need to have more of a body or physical or bottom-up approach with that. And the real reason behind that is because your mindset lives up here in the front part of your brain called the frontal lobe. That is the last place that your brain is worried about when it comes to survival, right? All your survival functions live at the back bottom part of your brain. That is the highest priority, always. We got to keep you breathing and your heart beating, right? So resources are going to be hogged and kept back here when we're in a survival situation. Now, your brain doesn't know the difference between getting chased by a lion on the Serengeti and your boss yelling at you, right? So we can sometimes get stuck in that survival mode from a, innocuous kind of threat. You're not really at stake of losing your life when your boss yells at you, but your nervous system doesn't really know that because this survival brain doesn't speak in language. It doesn't have words. right? It doesn't know English or Spanish or German. It only knows the language of the body. Okay, just like a little baby has to be soothed when it's upset, your nervous system and your survival brain back here are the same. It needs soothing. It needs to feel safe. And we do that through bodily inputs. So coming full circle, your mindset training, the mental coaching, it doesn't work if this frontal part of your brain is not really working. If you're stuck in the survival brain, then all the language is going to just go in one ear and out the other. It's not going to catch. It's not going to work to change things until you take care of that little baby that is your survival brain. So, to me, it's all performance coaching, whether it's pain relief or performance or mental coaching. It's all performance coaching because it's all helping us to improve our performance in whatever we're doing. But the ways that we do it and the mental versus like the physical, the neuro training versus the mindset coaching and some of the flow state coaching that I do, they really have to go together. And you got to make that survival brain, that little baby back there, feel safe so that you can really work with the frontal lobe where all of our decisions and our good mindset training can live.
All right, Brandon, so can you share your journey and what led you to develop the NeuroFlow method?
Yeah, of course. So I mentioned that I played American football, and with that came a lot of physical pain and head injuries. And so I spent quite a few years um, kind of trying to make my way in the world after college. I made some independent films, which was an incredible experience. But at the end of that, excuse me, 5 or so years, I was really in a lot of pain, and my mental health was really declining. And so I made a decision at a really low point in my life to just turn my attention back to healing my body. That was my first goal. And then I knew that I had to do something about my brain because it just wasn't, I could feel that it wasn't functioning at top performance. So I went on a mission and I started learning everything I could. I became a personal trainer and started helping people get in shape. And I started working with a guy that had Parkinson's. And it was very nerve-wracking. And a mentor of mine really helped me have the confidence to work with him. And it went very well. And that kind of sparked even more passion in me to help other people learn how to heal their own pains and get back to a really functional and high-performing lifestyle. So some years went by and I struggled and I got frustrated a lot trying to heal my own pains and other people's pains and was having some success, but having a lot of failures too, and just kind of on that Ferris wheel, trying to figure it out. Then I discovered flow states in 2016 by reading a book by a guy named Stephen Kotler called The Rise of Superman. Incredible book. It taught me about what flow states are and how this optimal state of consciousness is different than waking consciousness, and it is when we feel and perform at our highest level. It's when we feel our best and when we're performing really at our peak level. And it was a revelation for me because it was an understanding that I had lost access to that state of consciousness when my athletic career ended. And I didn't have a good access point to that state anymore. And that was really, in my opinion, at that point, that was really a big contributor to my mental health struggles. And so I became very passionate about finding more flow states in my life, in my work, in my sports, in my relationships, and elsewhere, everywhere that I could. I made that my mission. And I still believe that that is what gives our life meaning and that what we're all seeking when it comes to our interactions with others and our pursuits in life. We're seeking flow more than we're seeking the outcomes that we think that we want, right? So that was a huge moment. And then a few years later, After getting a master's degree and working in physical therapy with patients and clients, and again seeing good results, but knew there was a lot more that I could be doing. Then I stumbled into the applied neurology world and learned from some incredible neurotrainers, all about how applied neuroscience can work in a performance or pain relief kind of capacity. And so I started to blend those two worlds of applied neurology and flow state coaching into kind of a whole program and method that I call the NeuroFlow Method, which takes athletes, primarily athletes from burnt out in chronic pain, um, high performing but spinning wheels and plateaued to, unlocked like next level performance that a lot of times they didn't even think was possible for them to achieve. So we use that applied neurology foundation to work with the body and the athletic performance training and the flow state modalities and mindset coaching and everything else to tune the brain to access that peak performance state more reliably and consistently.
Do you have any project in the pipeline? Perhaps you have exciting news, information you think is going to add value to the audience. You can share if you have them.
Okay. Right now I'm just really focused on building a community of athletic-minded people, whether they're competing in high-level athletics or they have in the past, and now they're more focused on their business or their family, whatever that may be. But those athletic-minded people, I have a community that I'm really building that's starting to gain some momentum that is a really fun and awesome project for me right now that I'm really loving. And it's hosted on the platform called School, Skool, and it's called the NeuroFlow Performance Lab. And it's where we come together, and I come in there and I coach for free every week. And we got some challenges going on in there, and it's all about, finding your way out of pain and really reaching that peak performance level of flow in all the areas of your life. And I've got all the tools and resources you need in there. And there's even some coursework that you can walk yourself right through it. And it's all free. Of course, there is the higher access levels to me with my group coaching and my one-on-one coaching programs. But that free community is a passion project of mine that, yes, helps feed those other things and helps my business, but it's really been helping a lot of people get out of pain themselves. I love hearing those messages and seeing those things when I log into that community of people that are just doing it on their own, and they're just getting out of pain and like really improving their lives with these tools. And I love that I don't even have to do anything. It's amazing, right? So that's a project I'm really passionate about that I'm working on right now.
Good to know. Thanks for sharing that with the audience. We wish you best of luck. Can you share your social media handles and your website? Well, it's optional, but we like to connect and learn more about you and what you've been up to lately.
Yeah, of course. Right now, I'm just primarily focused on Instagram. I'm not really on any other social medias at this moment. On Instagram, you can find me at I am Brandon Day. And then I'm also primarily on School. That's where I spend a lot of my time. So school.com, that's SKOOL.com/neuroflow performance lab. Those are the two spaces where I spend most of my time if I'm not outside.
Good to know. Thanks for sharing that. Really had a great time with you, Brandon Day. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with the audience, especially on the future of performance coaching, how we can integrate neuroscience and athletic training. Now, Brandon Day is a high performance coach and the founder of NeuroFlow Method, which is a unique system that combines applied neuroscience and flow state coaching to help the elite performance. Great to have you share your insight to impact the audience across the globe. We wish you best of luck sincerely from the bottom of my heart on behalf of the audience. in all of the projects you embark upon. Best
Yeah,
of luck once again.
thank you so much.
It's been Live Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. You can catch up any missed episodes of the show on any cross-promotion platforms or any podcast distribution platforms you bump into online, and you have a great time. I need you to stay safe always. I talk to you soon. Thank you once again, Brandon. We had a great show.
Yeah, that was very fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you subscribe and leave us a review.